All right, today we're going to deconstruct one of the most important exams on the planet, the IELTS. And to do this, we're going straight to the source, the official Cambridge Guide to IELTS. We're not just going to scratch the surface here. Nope. We are going deep, really deep, into the technical architecture of this test to see how it really works. So let's kick things off with just one number, a big one, over 8,000. What is that? Well, that's the number of universities, employers, and governments all over the world that trust the IELTS exam. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some test. For millions of people, it is the key that unlocks their entire future. It's basically the global currency for English proficiency.
And look, that huge global acceptance is exactly why the official guide itself can make such a powerful claim. This isn't just some marketing slogan, it's the real deal. When we analyze IELTS, we're not just looking at any test. We are breaking down the global benchmark for English, both in academia and in the professional world.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the sheer scale of this test. Then, we'll deconstruct all of its components, we'll zoom in on one specific skill you absolutely need to master, and we'll wrap it up with the official path to success.
All right, first up, let's really get a grip on just how massive and, credible this test actually is. Understanding its global weight is absolutely key to understanding its design.
And when I say massive, I mean it. The Cambridge Guide tells us that over 2 million tests are taken every single year. Now think about all the data that generates. It means this test isn't just sitting still. It's constantly being tweaked, refined, and validated, which is exactly how it stays so fair and consistent all across the globe.
So, you might be asking, where does all this credibility come from? Well, take a look at the heavy hitters on this slide. IELTS isn't run by just one company. It's actually a joint partnership between the British Council, IDP Australia, and Cambridge English. This structure creates this incredibly powerful system of checks and balances, and that's what guarantees the quality of the exam.
Okay, time to get into the nitty-gritty. Let's pull back the curtain and look at the technical architecture. How is this thing actually built?
First thing you absolutely have to know. IELTS is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It actually comes in two different versions. As you can see, the academic module, that's for people heading to university or getting a professional registration. The general training module, on the other hand, is designed more for things like migration, work experience, or just general social situations. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter which version you take. The exam is always built on these four pillars. It's designed to copy how we use language in the real world, not just one skill at a time, but by weaving listening, reading, writing, and speaking all together.
So how do they actually measure all these skills? Well, IELTS uses this unique 9-band scale, and this is a really vital design feature. I mean, why not just a simple pass or fail, right? Because a university needs to know the difference between someone who's just okay and someone who's a genuinely fluent, proficient speaker. This scale gives them that super detailed profile, all the way from a non-user at Band 1 to a total expert at Band 9. Okay, and this is where it gets really cool from a technical standpoint. That 9-band scale isn't just some random thing. It maps directly to the global standard called the CEFR. This is the secret sauce that makes an IELTS score understandable anywhere in the world. An employer in Canada can see a band 6.5 and know immediately that it means a B2 competent user, which gives them a really precise idea of what you can do. This mapping is what gives the score its real international power.
Okay, so we've seen the blueprint. Now let's see how it all works in the real world. We're going to zoom in on one specific task from the academic reading test to see this whole design philosophy in action.
We're going to look at what's called the diagram completion task. Now, this isn't just a simple reading test. Technically, it's designed to check a very specific cognitive skill, your ability to combine information from two different places, words on a page and a picture. This puts a pretty high demand on your brain, and that's the whole point. It's an excellent predictor of how you'll do in college, where you're doing this kind of stuff all day long. Okay, so here's a classic example straight out of the Cambridge Guide. On the left, you've got a diagram of a hydropower plant with some missing labels, and on the right, you've got a paragraph of text explaining how it all works. Your job is to fill in those labels using the exact words from the text. So what's the best way to tackle this? Well, the smartest strategy starts with the picture. Before you even read a single word of the text, you analyze the diagram. You build a little mental map of the process. Water flows from the dam, goes through a pipe, spins a turbine, and you figure out exactly what information is missing at labels 1 through 5.
And only then do you move on to the text. You're not just reading it casually. You're actively scanning for specific bits of information. You're basically hunting for keywords and descriptions that match that mental map you just built from the diagram. Let's get super specific here. Take a look at label 5 on the diagram. It's that big pipe leading down to the turbine. Now, when we scan the text, we find this key phrase. Gravity pulls the water through the penstock, a line of pipe that leads to the turbine. And boom, there it is. The text basically hands you the definition on a silver platter. The answer has to be penstock.
And that whole process, right there, that's what this is all about. It's about that precise mapping of words to a picture. It's about being able to build a bridge between information you read and information you see. And that skill is absolutely essential in pretty much any technical or academic field you can think of.
So, we've taken the exam apart, we've reverse engineered a key skill. What now? What does the official guide actually say about the path to success?
Well, the good news is, the guide doesn't frame success as this, impossible mountain you have to climb. It's actually a pretty manageable process. The whole idea is that your prep should be practical and targeted, focusing on building both the skills and the confidence you need on test day. And that whole philosophy boils down to this super clear 4-step method. First, you understand the format, which we've made a good start on today. Second, you use practice tests to find your personal weak spots. Third, you develop specific strategies for each task, just like we did for the diagram. And finally, you practice. And this is so important. Practice with official Cambridge tests, because they're the only ones you know are the real deal. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? The IELTS is not some big mystery. It's a structured and, honestly, a predictable system. Success isn't just about how good your English is, it's about having the right strategy. And the single most important part of that strategy is practicing with the official source material. So, there you have it. We've deconstructed the architecture of IELTS. We've reverse engineered a core skill. You now have the blueprint. You get the what and you get the how. So really, the only question left is the one you see right there. Is your strategy ready?